Hey y'all, it's Allie from Greenwich Mystics, and today I'm going to show you how to make a beaded choker. Check my affiliate links down below for more supplies that I actually use. Follow me on social media and let's get started. So you don't have to have one of these boards. It definitely does come in handy, especially if you're doing increments of beads and doing a specific pattern or design. It's good to have the measurements spaced out. You'll really only need pliers, flat nose pliers, and flush cutters. You will need some sort of findings like lobster clasps and jump rings, and you will definitely need crimp beads. Now, the size of the crimp bead, the metal type, will completely depend on the thread that you're using, the crystal or the bead size that you're using, and how big your lobster clasp is. I don't use these all the time, but you can. A lot of people like the look of them. They're not completely necessary in my personal opinion, but you can get these kind of crimp hiders. They're like little beads that you pinch over a crimp bead and it makes it look a little bit nice and uniformed and kind of hides it. So I have my thread of beads. This is some sodalite, and I'm gonna get that sorted. You can see in the background I'm using Beadalon's bead stringing wire. I'm using 0.46 millimeters. It's again just totally going to depend on the bead size that you're using and how many millimeters the bead holes are. So, but usually like close to 5 millimeters is a good, or 0.5 millimeters is a good in between and fits most beads. So I'm just gonna be threading the wire or the bead string, and I've threaded about 4.5 inches. I'm going for like a choker style. Most chokers sit between around like 15 to at most 18. 18 is usually a little bit too much, but it just depends on how big your neck is. The most are between like 15 inches to 16. I usually stick with around 16 inches, which was what I was wearing in the beginning. And so with these, since it has the inches laid out, and I'm gonna be adding incremental beads, I'm going to do about 4.5 inches, and I'm going to be adding 3 beads, but it will depend on your increment, bead size, all that stuff. So I'm just going to keep threading and threading, and I'll meet you back when I've done another about 4 inches, 4.5 inches for the middle. And then again for the other side, and I'm just going to be threading it. And so everything is nice and threaded, everything's even. If you don't have a board, you can just kind of hold it up and eyeball it. So that's another way you can do that. If you don't have the board, you can just use a tape measure and eyeball it and see, make sure it looks even. Now, something you want to keep in mind if you are going to cut it off the spool is to be really mindful of your beads, because if you lift it too much or too quickly and you're not paying attention, all the beads are going to slide off. I know because I've had it happen a lot. You also want to pay attention to your crimp bead size. You don't want one that's too small or too big. If it's too small, you're not going to be able to rethread it, because the wire, or excuse me, like the string is going to go through it twice, because you have to go back through it. And if it's too big, when you crimp it down, it just looks kind of crazy and doesn't really hold up too well. So I'm just threading that through the bead, and then I like to thread the string through a couple of beads. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And then once I get it through a couple of beads, I'm going to press down on that crimp bead and pull everything up and make sure that the wire is not sticking out and everything is nice and flush. So I'm just going to do that to the other side, adding the bead and then adding the lobster clasp. I always want to say lobster claw. And you're going to thread it back through the bead. Now with this, you want to be a little careful because if you pull too hard, it will kind of be more difficult to undo that. Like if you pull really hard and that string is to almost pull through that crimp bead, it can snap the wire, it can damage the bead, you'll have to clip it. So you just want to be careful to have have it a little bit loose, have some slack on the looped part that connects to the lobster claw or whatever final loop you're doing, because you can always pull a little bit more on that tension. So you just want to be careful and mindful of that, depending on how thick of wire or string size you're using. I probably could have gone a little bit thinner with this, but it's okay. So that is good enough for me. I'm going to pull that through and pull that down and make sure, again, everything is nice and snug and flush and pinch down on that crimp bead. And then I'm going to cut that extra string wire. And here you can see I didn't have any extra room for that little cover bead that I had showed you earlier that covers the crimp bead, but I'm just kind of demonstrating like what it would look like if I had enough room and used these. But you just fold that straight piece over and it just kind of looks like a silver bead. They make different styles of them. Again, I don't really use them. It is a personal preference, but you can. And with this, you can also, I like to add a jump ring, but you really don't have to. Most of these beaded string strands are pretty strong. I just like to add a jump ring just for a little extra length and security, and that's it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found this helpful. Please leave suggestions down below and check out my channel for existing wire wrapping and crystal tutorials. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!